In this video, I'll explain how you can easily extract data from Rally to Excel using the Rally REST API, and why you would be interested in using this method instead of the CA Agile add-on. I will also explain something that is not mentioned clearly in the Rally documentation, which is about how to get authenticated when calling the APIs. Let's start. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Karim, and on this channel I try to share with you everything I know about Excel that would make your experience with Excel more efficient and fun. I've been managing and tracking projects in Rally for several years. In many situations I got into a roadblock when trying to do some analysis or create complex dashboards in Rally. Hence, I had to extract the data to Excel and implement the logic and reports there. The most obvious way to extract to Excel is using the Excel add-on provided with Rally. But when I realized that I could use the REST API as well, my life completely changed, and I use the REST API most of the time. At the end of the video, I will explain the pros and cons of using this method compared to using the Excel add-on. But before we start, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you will know about any new videos I make. And by the way, the video is longer than my other videos because I'm presenting some useful links you should know about the API and explaining some concepts about it. So feel free to watch at 1.5x or 2x speed or skip to relevant seconds if needed. Let's move to the computer. Okay, so before we start implementing things in Excel itself, it's very important to be familiar with the following documentation, okay, or the following websites. The first one and the most important is the Web Service API documentation of Rally that is available in this URL, and there you can find which URL or which endpoint should be called for each kind of entities that you would like to retrieve. So if you are interested in user stories, then you need to call this endpoint. You see it ends with requirement. For features, you have this endpoint that ends with portfolio item / feature. And you have for every kind of entity, like user capacity, like iteration, etc., you have a different endpoint and you can find it there. In addition to that, you will be able to see in this page all kinds of fields that you have in the system in your Rally implementation. That includes the original core fields in Rally, plus every custom fields that you have created as part of your implementation. And you can also see how the API should be used, how you can do pagination, what kind of parameters you can use when calling the API, and we are going to use many of those in the example today. The other very important page is this one, the one that ends with keys, and this is the one where you manage your API tokens. The API token is, in simple words, it's like it replaces your it's used for authentication when calling the REST API. So when you access the Rally website, you need to provide your username and password, right? But when calling the API, you should, instead of providing username and password, you should provide an API token, which is a long string like this. It starts with an underscore and then a very long alphanumeric string. So you need to generate such a string using this website and then send it as a parameter, or as we call it, as a header when calling this URL, and we will see how. Okay. The additional website that I'm going to use is this one, is a URL encoder, and I will explain about it. But basically, when calling an REST API, you cannot send every kind of character. So some characters need to be like reflected differently. So for example, you cannot send the quotation character. This one will be converted to something like this. Okay, this is the representation that should be sent. Okay, but we will see all of that in the example. Now let's go to Excel, but I'll just mention what kind of sample we're going to do today. So basically I'm going to implement a very simple query that is bringing me extracting user stories from a specific project, and it will be the user stories that were created before 10 days ago. Okay, so the query, if I would implement this in Rally itself in the UI, I would write the following query: creation date, okay, like this, is less than today minus 10, and I need to put it in quotes, okay, and then closing parenthesis. So this is the query that I'm going to run, and I'm going to request this API to be executing. Okay, let's go to Excel and let's see how it's done. So we're going to use a feature, a very powerful feature, or my favorite feature in Excel, that is called Power Query. This feature is available starting from Excel 2016 and up, built in Excel. While if you're using Excel 2013, then you need to download it from the Microsoft website. It's an add-on that you need to download and install. Okay, here I'm using Excel 2016, so I have it here. I simply go to data, and then I have all this get and transform data. So you have many options here to get data from workbook, etc. I really recommend that you use this feature. It's amazing, really amazing. I'm going to start from here, from other sources and blank query. Okay, so you get this wizard here. I can call it, I can give a name to this query, so like user stories created before 10 days ago. Okay, and then you can see here applied steps. So these are like steps that Excel is applying to run this kind of query, to run an extraction of data, and also can optionally do some transformations. So the source here is the most important one. So we will need to start writing the command that is used to call the REST API. This is a very it's a long command, but you will see it's like something that you can simply copy and paste every time and just change the parameters themselves. So first of all, we need to start with this function, json.document, then web.contents. The web contents will bring the data from the internet, and the JSON document will parse it, will parse it as a JSON. And then now we need to create the actual URL that is going to be called. So we start with the, obviously in quotes, we start first of all with the endpoint itself. As I explained earlier, this is the endpoint for user stories. So let's go here, I'll copy it. Oops. Ends with requirement. Then we need to start providing the parameters. So we need to end this endpoint with a question mark, and now provide parameters and values. So the first parameter that I'm going to provide is the query itself, the one that we just wrote. And actually I cannot copy and paste it like this. I need first of all to encode it in a website like this. So we go to this website, and you can see, so I will paste it here, and I press encode, and this is how it's getting transformed. Let me check decode. Maybe we have space here. No. Okay, encode, and now I'll take it like this. Actually, I'm suspecting something is wrong here, so I guess these are maybe written in a strange quotes. So let me do like this: today encode. Okay. Seems that we have an extra new line here, you see. So I need to remove it. Then let me put the correct ones, just to make sure. Then encode, and like this. Okay. So we go back to Excel, to the wizard, and we put it here. This is the value of the query parameter. Now I need to provide a new an additional parameter, so I press on, I add the ampersand or and. Now we need to indicate the project, so the parameter is called project equal, and we need to use to indicate the project itself. So it looks exactly or very similar to this one, so I'll start like this, and then I need to write project and indicate the project ID or object ID. This ID I can find whenever I access Rally. Sorry, I cannot open it here, but you will see like something. You will see something like this. Okay, you have this start like this, and then you have a number. This is the project ID, and this is the entity ID. So if you are viewing a user story, it will show you this will be the object ID of the user story, and before that you will have the object ID of the project. So we need to take the first number that we see in the URL in Rally. Okay, so let me take it. This is the one. Just double checking. Yes. Okay, now the next parameter, I'm going to indicate which fields we want to retrieve from user stories. Okay, so fetch, this is the name of the parameter, fetch equal. I'm going to bring two very simple fields, basic fields. First one is formatted ID, and second one is creation date. Okay, these fields should be written exactly as found in the Web Service API documentation. So in this website, you need to go to the relevant entity and check which field exists there and take the exact name from there. So the name might be a bit different than what you see in the UI in Rally. So you need to get the code actually of that field. Okay, for example, creation date, you will see it as with a space in Rally, right? But here now we need to bring the code and not the decode or the label that is displayed in the UI. The next parameter we need to take, we need to indicate to Rally what to do with the project scope. Okay, so a project scope up, project scope up, it means whether we would like Rally to search also in the ancestors or the parent of this project that we have given as starting point, let's call it. So I don't want to go up in the hierarchy of projects, so I will write equal to false, and the same I have for whether project scope down means whether I would like Rally to search also in child projects of the project indicated here. So I will also mention false, and the default for these, if you don't mention them, it will be actually be true. So if I put false and false, it means that I want to search only in this project. Don't search in ancestors, don't search in the child projects. Now the next one, next parameter is page size. Page size limits the number of rows that Rally is returning. So for example, I will write here 15. It means I just need Rally to execute this query and return the first 15 results. Another parameter, and start. So start equal, the default is 1. What does it mean? It means that I will get 15 rows or 15 user stories in this case, starting from row number 1. And it's important to know that the page size here is actually limited to 2000. So you cannot, like every REST API will return a maximum of 2000 rows. That's how it's defined. So if you need more than 2000 rows, you will need to call the API multiple times. So basically you need to implement some kind of pagination. So for example, you can call, let's say that you have 4000 rows, you will need to call the API the first time with start 1, so meaning starts from the beginning, and return 2000. Okay, and then to call again starting from 2001 and requesting 2000. Okay, this is how you will be able to implement the pagination. Here we want to do something simple, so it's start from 1 and return the 15 records or 15 user stories. Another parameter that we can add is the order. So how you want, after the user stories are fetched, how you want Rally to sort them. So for example, in this scenario, I want to sort it by rank. The rank field is called drag and drop rank. So basically, you see, this is an example where the field is not exactly called like, is not called exactly like in Rally UI itself. Okay, now that's it. I put all the parameters that I wanted Rally to consider, and now we need to tell it how to authenticate, because if I run it like this, it won't get authenticated, it won't pass the authentication. So as I said before, I need to provide an API token. And how do you provide this? You provide it using a header. So here in the options field of web content, we need to write like this, and then I need to provide header. So headers equal, and then I open additional parentheses, and the name of the header is like this, Z session ID. And this is something unfortunately not mentioned that commonly in the documentation of Rally. You need like to search in forums in order to find this. So this Z session ID is very important here, and we need to give it the value, and we need to provide now the API token, which looks like this, right? Like I said earlier. Okay, if I press now, we are done. If I press enter now, let's see what happens. Right parenthesis, oh, maybe another one is missing. Okay, now I press enter. Okay, the remote name could not be resolved. Ah, okay, it should be Rally1, sorry, Rally1 here. Enter, and it says we couldn't authenticate with the credentials provided, please try again. So if I click credentials, first of all I must choose anonymous here. Okay, so anonymous, this is the level that I want, meaning that every time I try to access Rally, please use this authentication method. Don't use Windows authentication or whatever, and connect. Okay, now it won't be able we couldn't authenticate. Why? Because I gave it a wrong API key or API token. So I will close it now, and I will ignore now that it couldn't authenticate. Okay, I will come back and replace it with a correct one and show you what happens. So just wait a second, I will replace it, but I just don't want to show it in the video, so one sec. Okay, so I replaced it now. I'll press enter, or I can press like this. Let's see how it goes. Edit credentials, connect. Okay, now we can press on this record here to expand it, and we can see that we got a total result count of 1362 rows, meaning that the query that we have run has identified this number of user stories, but the page size is 15 because we requested to limit it to 15 to be returned. Now to see the results, we need to click on this list. We get it in the following way, and then we need to click to table. Okay, it will convert this to table. I'll press OK, and now I can expand it so that I can see the fields of each one of these user stories or user story records, and I need to choose which fields I want to extract from each one of them. So we were interested only, you see there are many fields that are coming, but we are interested in two. So I will click on creation date and formatted ID, and I don't want to use the original, I don't want it to be called column1.formatted ID, I don't want it. So I'll click on OK, and then we got this result. So now you can see that with 4 steps we have received the full list of user stories that we wanted. And now if I press on close and load, I can choose how this should be reflected. So I can choose whether it will be implemented as a table directly, or it can be a pivot table without seeing the table itself, or pivot chart, or just to create a connection. So this basically is functionality of Power Query, and I really recommend that you learn it. But in this example, I'll just choose table, and to put it existing worksheet, to put it here. Okay, and this way I get the result that I wanted. Now let's say that I come tomorrow, and then I want to see the user stories that were created 10 days ago. So I will be like 1 day forward in time, so that today minus 10 will be 1 day forward. So I just click like this, right click and refresh, and I get the updated results. Okay. In addition to that, I can simply go to the query itself and add additional steps of transformation. So after I've done the source and navigation and everything like this, what happens is that now I can do any kind of transformation that I want. So for example, I can add a column that says user stories. Okay, this is like I can write entity type, I'll call it like this, and it's of kind user story. Okay, and it basically adds a new column of user story. Okay, and now I'm just showing you what examples you can do, many transformations that you can do and use this kind of for automation. So I close it. Now I updated the query, and now it should reflect. You can see now the updated table. Now I can, for example, I can request, I can duplicate this query, and instead of requesting user stories that were created before 10 days ago, I can go to the source and replace it to show, instead of requirement, I can write the portfolio item that you saw earlier, right? Portfolio item feature. Okay, like this. Okay, so instead of getting a requirement, I'm getting a portfolio item feature. If I press OK, sorry, and now something went wrong here. Fetch, 1 second. I guess there was, oh yeah, there was like a new line written. So now I press OK. You see, I got it. The same. Now you see I got PF, which means portfolio feature. So I'll close it, and I need to indicate where to load it. So I don't want it to override this. So I can say, okay, give it in a, you know what, existing worksheet, but next to here. Okay. So I have this one. You see, this one is the user story, this one is the features. I can rename it now. It says features, or PFs created for 10 days ago, and I didn't update it to reflect feature, so let me edit it, and here instead of user story, I want to write feature. Okay, feature. Just trying to show you what can be done here. Now I can create a new query that will be a combination of the two. Okay, so I can say, okay, I want this one and this one to be appended now. So I'll select one, and I will say append this one. Okay, I will say please append both of them. Okay, so first one is user story, the second one is features. It's a new query that I'm running. So I will get, you see, all the user stories, 15 user stories and 15 features. And now I can do any other transformations that I want. I can filter, I can change the, let's say I want to put the entity type here in the beginning. So I'll move the column. So you see there's an additional step here. And here is like user stories and features. Okay. And now I want to, I don't want it to be reflected as a table. Maybe I want it to be a pivot table. So I will press OK. So my the data that the data source of this pivot table will be the combination of the two. So it will be this 30 rows. So now I can say, for example, how many I have entity types of each type. So I can see that we have 15 features and we have 15 user stories. And of course I can again, if I right click and refresh, everything will run again. Like this one will, the latest query that I created that is considered the source of this will be called again. Okay, so it will bring the new data and it will combine them into one table and show it as a pivot table. Okay, this is just an example of what you can do. So these things you cannot do using the Agile CA Agile add-on that is available for Excel, which is very powerful. It's great, but for automations, Power Query is much stronger, let's say, or much more powerful. So as we can see, there is great potential for automation using the Power Query feature and the REST API. On the other hand, if you need to extract more than 2000 entities from the same query, then you need to implement a query that will handle multiple calls, or what is called pagination. But for me personally, I'll always prefer the REST API route. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful. I will include the list of links in the video description and also a sample query like the one that we have built. If you have any questions about this topic, please write them in the comment section below and I will try my best to answer them ASAP. And if you like this video or found it useful, I thank you in the form of a like, subscribe, comment, share, or any combination of them would be much appreciated. Goodbye, stay safe, and see you in the next video.